I'm going through a really important book that I think summarizes everything you need to know about the benefits of exercise and human health. But today's chapter is really focused on women's health, specifically what happens to the female brain as she ages and goes through menopause. There's a very important thing called BDNF, which is Brain-Derived Neurotrophic Factor. And it's not a fancy word. It sounds more fancy than it really is. Basically, think of it as fertilizer for the brain, something that allows you to strengthen the connections in your brain. It gives you better memory. It allows you to recall information easier, improves learning, provides you resilience. There's lots of benefits of this fertilizer. So what happens when women go through menopause, and in this book, in specifically chapter 8, hormonal changes, the impact on women's brain health, Dr. Ratey, the author, an amazing medical doctor, talks about the fact that women spend 9 years in this premenstrual state, and that their hormones, the female hormone can vary obviously through various cycles during that phase. Some people spend 4 days, some women spend 5 days in PMS, in this premenstrual cycle. What they discovered was that when you lose estrogen, BDNF goes down. And they did a series of tests and studies where they compared women and hundreds of women where the control didn't do exercise, and then, where one group did, I'm just trying to make this a little easier. One group did exercise, one group didn't do exercise. And of course, the group that did exercise experienced better cognition. They were able to recall memory easier. They were able to experience less depression. They felt that they had more control over their lives. So you can think of it from that point of view, which is the effects of exercise on BDNF, or to offset the decrease of estrogen that reduces BDNF, is significant. It's not like I'm like some super smart guy decided to dive into menopause for fun. It's my wife, she's sort of on this edge of this experience. And I don't think I was very sensitive towards what she was going through. And of course, I decided to go and research the topic. In fact, part of my master's addressed menopause, specifically perimenopause, and its effect on estrogen loss and bone mineral density. But that's a separate subject. If you're feeling depressed, if you feel like you're unable to sleep, if you feel like your body's changing and you know that you don't feel quite like yourself, and this applies to postpartum too, but I just want to generalize for everyone so you could take this not with a grain of salt this time, but with some level of confidence that exercise will make you feel better. If you are in that stage of your life, you want more control over your sleep and your life, go out, learn how to jog if you don't know how to jog, or figure out how to do some aerobic-based exercise where you get your heart rate 50 to 60%, start to sweat, and do it for 30 minutes, obviously with doctor's clearance. And you should, according to this book, by the way, I don't need this book to tell me that exercise is good for me, but specific to this chapter, what I'm trying to allow all of you to know is the reason why is when you exercise, you add fertilizer to your brain, strengthening your cognition, strengthening your connections, and you just function better as a human. You know, so you don't have to. I guess you don't have to deal. I can't empathize. I can sympathize, but I think my note on this is try exercise 2 to 3 times a week and see if you feel better. And chances are you'll sleep better. You'll feel like your brain is clearer, less foggy, and you could use this as a tool for the rest of your life. And it's probably one of the best tools that we can give to ourselves. My wife, I know, is gifted in her exercise. So, you know, in the last few weeks, she had described to me she wasn't feeling quite herself. And of course, we noticed that her exercise activity went down, and it's not her fault. It's just the kids are in she does a lot for the children. And in this period of time, she chose to focus more of her time on her children than herself. But the byproduct is she's not sleeping as well. So let's all remember to take care of ourselves so that we can take better care of the people we love. That's all for today. I mean, that's a really simple conversation that I wanted to have. And John Ratey, I will put the show notes. I will put the book's link in the show notes. And there's another few chapters that I think is worth the read. And of course, Aging the Wise Way, which is chapter 9. And then for those of you who are mothers, chapter 1 is incredible. It's one of my favorite chapters, which involves Dr. Ratey finding that this school in Naperville, Chicago, utilizes physical education in the morning as their primary education tool. And that school tested the highest for all standardized tests, I think, in the United States. The proof is in the pudding that exercise is immensely beneficial to everyone's brain health. And this seems to be, according to this book, and even I know this from my education, that BDNF is such an important part of a healthy brain, being able to produce BDNF. And I think learning how to exercise is so important to your long-term health, especially as we age. So it's, learning to exercise is not a bad thing. Just know every time you're out there doing some aerobic work, you're actually adding fertilizer to your pot of your plant, right? Your brain is your plant. Your brain is the plant that you're adding fertilizer to. And I'll leave you with this note, which is really, I know something that we don't probably want to know, but it's a fact, according to Spark, that we lose about 5% of our brain mass every 10 years. So when you're 70, and I think sometimes we talk with people who are a little bit older and they're unable to recall certain things, if you exercise more, your prefrontal cortex will be more likely to have the executive function to pull out that information. And it's not about practice. There is also another really cool thing, sorry to sidetrack, go on a tangent, is they realize that people with higher education live longer. Yes, and we know about the other Harvard study that talked, which was a longitudinal study where they studied people over a very long period of time, that people who had better relationships lived longer than people who didn't have great relationships. But your key takeaway from this book, go exercise. Aerobic exercise reduces depression, improves BDNF, which is just think about it as adding fertilizer to my brain. My brain is the plant in the pot that needs fertilizers and it needs to be watered. And exercise is a wonderful way for us to add BDNF to our brain at any period of our lives. Well, thanks a lot.